Hello, you are watching Goodnight Lecture Hall. Today's episode is Dream Hacking, or the Science of Sleep. 1/3 of life in the void. We are all paying a silent biological tax. Every single day, without exception, we surrender our consciousness to the dark. 1/3 of your entire existence, 25 to 30 years of your life, is spent in a state of paralysis, lying in a dark room, disconnected from the world you call real. But what if I told you that most of those 30 years are simply lost, wasted? For the average person, the world of dreams is nothing more than a chaotic, flickering cinema where you are the only audience member and you have no control over the projection. You are a passive spectator in your own mind, a ghost drifting through a landscape of blurred memories and distorted faces. The human brain is the most complex structure in the known universe. Even as you sleep, it is not resting. It is burning with activity, processing data, repairing tissue, and constructing entire worlds with an efficiency that no modern supercomputer can match. And yet, when you wake up, all that remains is a fading shadow, a feeling of something that happened but is now gone forever. Why do we accept this? Why do we allow ourselves to be tourists in our own subconscious, never asking for the keys to the city? We have become accustomed to the idea that dreams are unreal, and therefore they are unimportant. But in the silence of the night, your mind is building a reality that feels just as solid, just as visceral as the chair you are sitting in right now. This forgetfulness is not an accident, it is an architecture. The brain is designed to filter out the dream world so that we can function in the waking world. But in doing so, we have lost touch with the fundamental part of ourself. We live in an age of total surveillance and digital distraction where every waking moment is captured, tracked, and monetized. Our sleep is the last frontier, the last truly private space left to humanity. And yet, we enter it like amnesiacs. Imagine if you could reclaim those 30 years. Imagine if every night was not an off switch, but a portal to a laboratory where time, gravity, and identity are merely variables that you can adjust. Scientists call this the internal simulator. During REM sleep, your brain is running a full-scale simulation of the world to test your emotions, your fears, and your desires. It is a training ground for the soul, but as long as you remain a passive spectator, the simulator is running you instead of you running the simulator. You are like a player in a high-definition video game who has forgotten they are holding the controller. You run from monsters that don't exist. You cry over losses that never happened, and you obey laws of physics that have no authority in the dream state. This is the great trance, the collective slumber of a species that has forgotten how to wake up while they are still asleep. In this cycle, we are going to look for the back door into this simulation. We are going to study the architecture of the mind and the techniques used by those who have learned to wake up within the dream. This is not about magic, it is about neurochemistry, psychology, and the ultimate act of self-ownership. We are going to learn how to turn the void into a playground. The 30 years you are destined to spend in bed don't have to be a blank screen. They can be the most productive, most terrifying, and most beautiful years of your life. The lights are dimming, the screen is starting to flicker. It is time to stop watching the movie and start directing it. Welcome to the Architecture of Awareness. Chapter 1 is just the beginning. The moment of awakening There is a moment thin as a razor's edge where the impossible meets the undeniable. You're walking down a street that looks familiar, yet the sky is the color of bruised violets. You see a person from your past, someone long gone, standing under a clock that is ticking backward. In the ordinary trance of sleep, your mind would accept this absurdity without question. But suddenly a spark ignites in the prefrontal cortex. A tiny, persistent voice whispers from the depths of your biology, "This is not real." This is the point of bifurcation. The moment your consciousness splits away from the narrative of the dream and looks directly at the simulation itself, it is the most profound glitch in the human experience. And to understand this moment, we must understand the chemistry of the waking brain within the sleeping body. During a normal dream, the parts of your brain responsible for logic and self reflection are effectively offline. You're a prisoner of your own hallucinations because the judge in your head has gone to sleep. But in the moment of lucidity, something miraculous happens. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, now keys the seat of our self awareness, suddenly surges with electrical activity. Gamma waves, usually associated with a high level problem solving and intense focus, begin to ripple across the sleeping brain. You're technically still in REM sleep, your body's still paralyzed to prevent you from acting out your fantasies, but your mind is now wide awake. You've become a ghost in your own machine. The first sensation of lucidity is often an overwhelming, almost violent clarity. The blurry, half remembered textures of the dream world suddenly snap into high definition. You look at your hands, and for the first time, you actually see them. You can feel the grit of the pavement beneath your feet. You can smell the electric scent of the dream air. You can feel the warmth of a sun that doesn't exist. It is a sensory explosion that can be terrifying. In fact, for many beginners, the sheer shock of this realization is enough to trigger the brain's emergency eject sequence. The heart rate spikes, the adrenaline flows, and the dream collapses, pulling you back into the cold, heavy reality of your bed. Staying inside the dream while knowing it's a dream, that is the ultimate act of balance. Once you pass the initial shock, you realize the true gravity of your situation. In this space, you are no longer a victim of circumstance, you are the architect. If you can maintain your focus, the laws of physics become merely suggestions. You can reach out and touch the fabric of your subconscious. But there is a trap. The dream world is a reactive mirror. It responds to your expectations, your fears, and your deepest unspoken desires. If you think of a monster, the shadows will move. If you doubt your power, you will fall. The point of bifurcation is not just about waking up, it is about the sudden, immense responsibility of owning your own mind. This moment forces us to ask a dangerous question. If my brain can create a world this convincing, this detailed, and this visceral while I am lying in the dark, how do I know the world I wake up to isn't just another layer of the same simulation? The point of bifurcation shatters the illusion of a solid reality. It teaches us that real is simply what our brain decides to perceive. By mastering the moment of awakening within the dream, we begin to see the cracks in the waking world as well. We realize that we are always architects of our experience, whether our eyes are open or closed. But how do we reach this point intentionally? How do we force the glitch to happen? In the next chapter, we will move from the why to the how. We will examine the codes, the triggers, and the psychological anchors used to induce this state of hyper-awareness. We're going to learn how to hunt for the moment of bifurcation. Your mind is a locked door, and you are about to find the key. Stay focused. Don't blink. The awakening is near. If your mind is a locked vault, then every vault has a combination. Every operating system has a backdoor, a set of commands that can bypass the standard user interface and grant you administrative privileges. In the world of the sleeping, these are called induction techniques. They are not rituals or magic. They are precise psychological hacks designed to exploit the transition between consciousness and the dream state. We are about to examine the manual for the mind, the codes that allow you to step through the mirror while remaining wide awake. The first and most fundamental code is the reality check. Most of our lives, we move through the world on autopilot. We assume that because the floor is solid and the sun is in the sky, we must be awake. The brain is a master of efficiency. It doesn't waste energy questioning the nature of reality unless it has a reason to. To hack this, you must train yourself to become a pathological skeptic. Ask yourself right now, how did I get here? Can you remember the last 10 minutes in perfect detail? Can you read the text on a digital clock, look away, and look back without the number shifting? In the waking world, the laws of physics are rigid. In the dream world, they are fluid. By obsessively checking the hardware of your reality during the day, you plant a seed in your subconscious. Eventually, you will perform this check inside a dream, and when the numbers on the clock turn into ancient symbols, the vault will swing open. The second code is known as mild, mnemonic induction of lucid dreams. This is a technique of prospective memory. As you lie in the dark on the edge of sleep, you repeat a command to your subconscious. The next time I'm dreaming, I will remember that I'm dreaming. This is not a prayer, it is a programming command. You are creating a mental tripwire. You visualize yourself becoming lucid. You imagine the specific moment when you realize the world around you is a simulation. By doing this, you bridges the gap between the waking ego and the sleeping self. You are training your brain to recognize the dreaminess of the dream while it's still happening. But if mild is a tripwire, then wild, wake-induced lucid dreaming is a direct assault on the gates of the dream world. This is the most advanced and often the most terrifying of all access codes. The goal of wild is to keep your consciousness perfectly awake while your body falls into deep paralyzed sleep. You lie perfectly still, you do not move a muscle. You begin to enter the hypnagogic state. Colors swirl behind your eyelids, voices whisper your name from nowhere. You may feel a heavy, crushing sensation on your chest. This is sleep paralysis. For the uninitiated, this is a nightmare, but for the hacker, this is the loading screen. If you can remain calm, if you can ignore the fear and the phantoms, you will feel a sudden shift, a sensation of falling or being pulled through a tunnel, and suddenly you will step out of your bed and into a world of your own creation with your waking awareness completely intact. To optimize these codes, we use the WBTB method, wake back to bed. Lucidity is a matter of timing. The most vivid, stable dreams occur during the late morning REM cycles. By waking yourself up after 5 hours of sleep, staying awake for 20 minutes, and then going back to bed, you are priming your brain. You are entering the dream state with your neurochemistry already saturated with the chemicals of alertness. You are hijacking the natural rhythm of your biology to create a window of opportunity that wouldn't otherwise exist. These techniques are the keys to the kingdom. But remember, once you learn how to open the door, you can never truly close it again. You're beginning to blur the lines between what is real and what is perceived. In the next chapter, we will move beyond the how. We will explore the architecture itself. We will ask why, when we finally gain control, we find ourselves in the same mysterious liminal spaces. Why does the mind build the same schools, the same corridors, and the same empty cities for us to explore? The codes are entered, the system is rebooting. Prepare for the jump. Reality is about to become optional. When you close your eyes and drift into the void, where exactly do you go? We think of dreams as random, chaotic, and fleeting. But for many who have walked the path of lucidity, a strange pattern begins to emerge. You find yourself standing in a hallway you've seen 100 times before, yet you've never visited it in the waking world. You recognize the specific geometry of a shopping mall that doesn't exist, or a distorted version of your childhood school that seems to stretch into infinity. This is not a random glitch in your neurobiology. This is the architecture of the labyrinth. Your mind is not just dreaming, it is building a persistent, recurring reality that you inhabit every night. Why does the brain use the same blueprint? To the subconscious, space is not just a container for objects. Space is a container for meaning. When your internal simulator constructs a dreamscape, it doesn't build from scratch. It reaches into the vast archives of your memory and pulls out archetypes of locations. This is why so many people share the same dream geography: the back rooms of the mind, the endless corridors, the flickering fluorescent lights, the sense of being lost in a familiar but empty structure. These are what we call liminal spaces. They are the transition points of the soul, waiting rooms between the layers of your consciousness. Your brain builds these places because they represent the internal structure of your life's journey. The most common architectural feat of the dream mind is the memory house. You might dream of a house that is a composite of every place you have ever lived. The kitchen of your grandmother's apartment leads into the bedroom of your first college dorm. But in the dream, you notice a new door, a hidden basement, an attic that wasn't there last night. Exploring these recurring spaces is the key to deep lucidity. These hidden rooms are the locked compartments of your psyche, memories you've suppressed, talents you've ignored, or fears you haven't yet dared to face. The labyrinth is not trying to confuse you, it is inviting you to navigate yourself. But there is an even more mysterious layer to this architecture: the phenomenon of shared dream sites. There are reports of people who have never met describing the exact same mall, the same island, or the same ancient library. Jung called this the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of human experience. It is as if we are all connected to a massive underground server where we all go to sleep. In this view, the labyrinth is not just your mind, it is our mind. A digital biological network where we are all architects building the same monuments out of the same fears and desires. When you achieve lucidity, the relationship with the labyrinth changes. You are no longer a rat in the maze. You can stop and look at the walls. You can change the weather, you can tear down a skyscraper with a thought. But even as a master of the dream, you will find that some structures remain. Some mountains cannot be moved. These are the pillars of your identity. They are the hard coded parts of your being that the simulator refuses to delete. To study these unmovable places is to understand the core of who you truly are. But beware the comfort of the familiar. The labyrinth can also be a prison, a place where you relive the same mistakes in the same hallways, night after night, forever. We must learn not just to inhabit these places, but to evolve them. Because as long as the architecture remains the same, you remain the same. In the next chapter, we will look at the shadow that haunts these halls. We will explore the dark side of control, the sleep paralysis, the false awakenings, and the guardians of the threshold. We will learn what happens when the labyrinth decides to fight back. The walls are shifting, the exits are disappearing. Don't look back. The maze is only beginning to wake up. In every myth, in every legend of a hero entering a forbidden kingdom, there's always a price to be paid. The world of dreams is no different. When you begin to hack your consciousness, when you force your way into the administrative levels of your own mind, you're no longer a guest. You are an intruder. Up until now, we have spoken of the beauty of lucidity and the power of the architect. But today we must speak of the shadows that haunt the corners of the labyrinth. We must discuss the moments when the internal simulator decides to fight back. Welcome to the dark side of control. The most common encounter with this darkness is the phenomenon of sleep paralysis. Usually happens at the very edge of sleep, the gateway. Your mind wakes up, but your body remains frozen in rematonia, the biological lock designed to keep you from acting out your dreams. You're wide awake, but you are a prisoner in your own flesh. This is when the guardian appears. For centuries, humans have described a weight on their chest, a shadow in the corner of the room, or a presence that radiates pure ancient malice. In the Middle Ages, they called them incubi. In the modern age, they are shadow people. Scientifically, it is your brain trying to make sense of a sensory mismatch. But to the person lying there, unable to breathe, unable to scream, it is the most visceral terror imaginable. It is the threshold of the labyrinth, and not everyone is invited to pass. If you manage to bypass the guardian, the mind has another trap waiting, the false awakening. You wake up in your bedroom, the sunlight looks real. You get out of bed, you start your day, you brush your teeth, but then you notice a small detail. The mirror has no reflection, or the door leads to a room that shouldn't be there. Panic sets in. You force yourself to wake up again. You wake up once more. You're back in bed. You feel relieved, but the light switch doesn't work. You're still inside. This is the infinite loop. It is a psychological defense mechanism where the subconscious creates a secondary simulation to hide the fact that you are still dreaming. It is a house of mirrors designed to exhaust your will, to make you doubt your own sanity until you surrender and fall back into a passive, deep slumber. Sometimes the resistance is not atmospheric, it is personal. In the world of lucid dreaming, many practitioners describe dream characters who don't behave like puppets. When you tell a person in your dream that this is a dream, they might look at you with a chilling, empty expression. They might stop what they are doing and stare at you in unison. Or they might say something that shakes you to your core. You weren't supposed to find out. Who are these entities? Are they merely fragments of your imagination, or are they the security software of your mind, protecting the core secrets of your identity from your own prying ego? To confront a dream character is to confront a part of yourself that you have no permission to see. The ultimate trap is the void. Sometimes when you become lucid, the dream collapses instantly. The colors fade, the walls vanish, and you're left suspended in a total, absolute darkness. No body, no sound, no light. This is the silent screen of the mind. In this state, many feel an existential dread, a fear that they have gone too far and that they will never find the way back to the waking world. But the void is actually the highest level of the simulator. It is the raw material of creation, the blank canvas. If you can conquer the fear of the void, you can build anything. Why does the mind fight us? Perhaps because the shadow is necessary. Fear is the boundary that keeps the ego from being overwhelmed by the infinite complexity of the subconscious. To be a master of the labyrinth, you must learn to respect the guardian. You must realize that the traps are not there to hurt you, but to test your readiness for the truth. In the final chapter, we will move beyond the struggle. We will look at the future of this frontier. We will explore how technology is beginning to bridge the gap between your dreams and mine. The era of shared dreaming and the digital Elysium is no longer science fiction. The Guardian is watching. The loop is closing. Are you sure you are awake now? Check the clock before it's too late. We have traveled through the void, mastered the access codes, and stood before the guardians of the threshold. But every journey leads to a destination, and for the human mind, the destination is the dissolution of boundaries. Up until this point, dreaming has been the ultimate solitary experience, a kingdom of one, a private universe where you are the only real inhabitant. But we are standing on the precipice of a revolution that will change the meaning of reality forever. Welcome to the era of the digital Elysium, a future where the wall between your dream and mine is about to come down. In the laboratories of today, the line between biological intelligence and artificial intelligence is blurring. We've already developed neural interfaces that can read the visual cortex of a sleeping person, and we can now reconstruct low-resolution images of what a dreamer is seeing in real time. As these algorithms evolve, as the resolution of our neural links increases, we won't just be recording dreams. We will be streaming them. Imagine a world where you can invite another person into your internal simulator, a shared space built not from pixels and code, but from raw subconscious thought. This is not science fiction. It is the logical conclusion of our drive to connect. The Internet of Dreams is being built right now, one neuron at a time. But what happens to the human soul in a shared labyrinth? When you dream with another, you are not just sharing a space, you are sharing a state of being. In the digital Elysium, there are no masks. There is no social performance. Your deepest fears and your purest desires are rendered in the architecture of the world around you. It is a level of intimacy that humanity has never experienced, and perhaps a level of vulnerability that we are not yet ready for. Will we build a paradise of collective creativity, or will we bring our wars, our prejudices, and our colonial instincts into the only remaining free territory? The colonization of the dreamscape is the final frontier of the 21st century. For some, the digital Elysium represents something even more profound, an escape from the limitations of the flesh. As we move toward mind uploading and persistent virtual simulations, the dream state becomes the blueprint for our future existence. If we can create a world in our sleep that feels as real as this one, then why should we return to a body that ages, that feels pain, and that eventually dies? The eternal dream is the new promised land, a place where time is infinite and the only limit is the power of your imagination. But we must ask, if we leave the physical world behind, do we remain human? Or do we become something else? A collective ghost haunting a machine of our own making? Our journey through the architecture of awareness ends here. We have seen that sleep is not a pause in life, but its most intense expression. Lucid dreaming is the first step in a much longer evolution. It is the training ground for a species that is learning how to exist in multiple realities at once. Tonight, when you lay your head on the pillow, remember that you are not just going to sleep. You are entering a portal. You are stepping into a simulator that has been evolving for millions of years. Just for you. The choice is yours. Will you be the spectator or will you be the architect? The clock is ticking, the lights are fading, and the simulation is waiting for your command. Wake up within the dream, and I will see you in the Elysium.